95%.
Given the damage the Estrella has sustained, I would not expect even a simple system such as this to remain operational. How was that achieved?
The Estrella was built for war. Her high level of redundancy and modularity limits most damage to the compartment that sustained it. In the case of that display, it is still receiving power from micro-generators and integrated capacitors.
All within that part of the ship?
All within that hallway.
We would never even consider building something so vulnerable to the biomass.
Suffice to say, Doctor, the biomass was not a threat we anticipated. Though I'm afraid beyond that, the details are classified.
Of course they are.
A spent biomass torpedo.
Just like every other that was left behind here. Useless for my research, unfortunately. As soon as one detonates, accessing its incubator is no longer tenable.
Apollo, is this the only way into the drive bay?
I'm afraid that's correct, Jack. The fuel cells are stable, but the same cannot be said of their contents. As a result, access is tightly restricted. The door can be opened, however, by using the nearby controls.
Apollo, are these the door controls you mentioned?
Correct. Unfortunately, it requires 2 operators.
Or more range?
Yes, the grid projector tool that Juno proposed could work.
I'll search the area for more cargo drones to scan.
Shields at 30%. Shields at 95%. Charging dock restored. Jack, now that we've completed optimizing your shield's radiation resistance, I'm afraid there's nothing more to be gained from the dock's data.
What's the point of an advanced network of semi-autonomous recharge stations if you can't count on them to calculate impressive optimizations for you?
I believe you are correct, Captain. The distributed computing power of the charging docks could be put to greater use.
Yes. That's precisely what I meant. Go on.
I have tasked the charging docks with developing a means for allowing Jack's shield to self-regenerate. The stasis projection technology will be simpler to adapt than previously anticipated. If you scan one more cargo drone, I believe I will have enough data to complete your new tool.
How's it looking out there, Jack?
Manageable. How are your preparations coming?
Quite well, actually. Just doing some light welding outside the ship. Juno's helping me get the intake systems ready for the materials we're gathering.
Are you sure you should be exerting yourself, given your current condition?
I can handle it. The infection's still dormant, remember?
Assuming its status hasn't changed.
Believe me, when it goes active, she'll know.
Shields at 95%. Tool schematics complete. Please visit a fabricator to install your new tool jack. Most charging docks will have one nearby. grip projector installed. To use your grip projector, simply point at a target. Activate the projector and direct it with your hand. Any sufficiently small piece of debris would be ideal to experiment on.
If your new tool works as intended, Jack, you should be able to access the fuel cells now.
Good. Heading to the drive bay.
Shields at 95%. Shields at 95%. At least a small amount of that data is relevant to the biomass. We can use it in our development of a cure. Shields at 95%. Shields at 95%.
I'm back at the drive bay. Armed with the grip projector this time.
Great. You should be able to remove those warheads now.
Shields at 95%.
Warheads removed. Entry into the drive bay is now clear.
Copy that. Standing by.
Now heading for the fuel cells.
Great. We'll keep a working cargo drone on standby.
I've gained access to the drive bay.
Wait, those pillars in the center, are those...
The Astrea's FTL drives, yes.
do they still work?
Theoretically. But unfortunately, they're of little use to us. With such a high concentration of biomass forms in this area, any attempt to remove one of the drives would prove futile.
Dr. Harlan, I'm noticing these ticks appear to be less evolved than those we've previously encountered.
Must have carried over from the last time jump. No doubt just as dangerous. I advise avoidance at all costs.
Jack, my monitoring systems are offline here. You'll need to manually inspect each fuel cell in order to determine its viability. Simply scan their data ports to get started.
Do we know what the biomass does specifically to an FTL drive to trigger a time jump?
I have a few theories.
As do I.
And I'm sure they're all equally preposterous.
The drive assembly looks remarkably like Dr. Harlan's FTL, if only a bit larger.
As I understand it, our drives were reverse engineered from the ones left behind on the Astrea 400 years ago. functionality hasn't improved since then.
Apollo, could one of these FTL drives contain a suitable replacement for the fuel cell?
Doubtful. All of these drives are likely depleted from the last jump. And even if that were not the case, I would still advise against venturing too close to those biomass swarms. If we're to leave here with a viable source of energy, it will need to be one of the fuel cells along the outer wall. Exposing fuel cell for your inspection, Jack.
Empty. I'll have to keep looking. Apollo, could one of these infected fuel cells still be full?
It is conceivable, Jack. However, the infestation renders it impossible for me to extract the cell.
Understood, Apollo. I'll check the other cells.
Jack, the data ports you need to access are located on the storage units running along the room's perimeter.
The units may be covered in biomass, but the texts seem to prefer the center of the room.
Accessing fuel cell.
Another empty cell.
Apollo, you're sure there's a good fuel cell there?
I never said I was sure, Captain Rhodes. It's simply the most likely location on my ship to contain a viable fuel cell, if any were remaining.
Right. If any were remaining.
Exposing fuel cell for inspection.
This does not look good. These cells are all empty.
Jack, if you access the data ports beside the storage cells, I can open them to allow further examination. Exposing cell for visual inspection.
Viable fuel cell located. Hopefully enough to power Dr. Harlan's FTL drive.
Nicely done, Jack. I'm sending a drone your way.
Send 2.
What for? There's only one fuel cell.
Just trust me. Send 2.
Warning, lead drone compromised.
Jack, what's going on?
The Ticks swarmed the lead cargo drone.
And that is why you send 2.
I don't think we'll be using that one again.
Backup drone malfunctioning.
More Ticks. The lead drone is disabled, but the backup still has a chance.
Pesky bastards, aren't they?
I'll clear them off. Cargo drone cleared.
Acknowledged. Thank you, Jack. Resuming flight. Analyzing. It appears optimizations were being tested on this cargo drone's maneuvering thrusters. Assuming other drones were testing similar optimizations, scanning their data ports should allow me to reverse engineer the concept and apply it to your own maneuvering thrusters, making them more energy efficient.
Copy that. I'll see what I can do.
Excellent. I'll add a tracker to your data tab. Drone is in place to collect the cargo.
Jack, I've activated the release controls on the fuel cell.
Fuel cell released.
Cargo secured. Ready for departure.
Excellent. The fuel cell still needs to be latched into place once it arrives, Jack. The honor's all yours, if you'd like.
I'll take care of it, Liv. I prefer to see the job through to the end anyway.
Okay, great. We'll see you in a bit.
Cargo drone returning in T-minus 10 seconds.
Better grab on or stay clear, Jack.
If you wish to return now, I advise taking hold of the drone. Cargo drone departing in 3, 2, 1. Firing thrusters.
The fuel cell is clear of the drive bay.
Great. I'll have some cargo clamps ready to receive it here. Surprised to see welders haven't changed all that much in 400 years.
That design is actually from a historical archive. It was the standard for most of the 23rd century. I'm afraid it's the closest approximation to a welder I could fabricate. I hope it's acceptable.
Perfectly adequate, Juno. Thank you.
Cargo inbound to destination. Decreasing speed for final descent.
Looking good, Cowboy Jack. Steady as she goes. Hookup controls are over near the cargo clamps.
Fuel cell in place and ready to be secured.
All you, Jack.
These units were used to refuel ships.
Yeah, input only now, though. We got them hooked up to take in the contents of the gear you're collecting. Once we have both the fuel cell and the biomass container hooked up, we'll use these to route what we need to where we need it.
We are becoming quite skilled in bringing order to chaos.
Seems like we were built for this kind of work, huh?
Indeed. Fuel cells secured.
Copy that. I guess you'll be heading to the research facility then.
That is where we'll be able to acquire a contained biomass sample, correct?
Indeed. I'll provide further details once you're on site.
Copy that. How's your work here coming along?
Quite well, actually. For being 400 years into the future, this technology's pretty similar to what we're used to. I suppose an apocalypse slows things down a bit.
Understandable.
Still, the fabricators are quite handy. Juno's been printing me parts as I need them.
Liv, are you feeling well? Given your infection, I wanted to make sure.
Thanks, Jack. Honestly, I feel fine physically.
And mentally.
I'm fine there too, Dr. Jack. I mean, don't get me wrong. The state of this future is not great. But we've got a plan to fix it. And I've got work to keep me busy. Just soldiering on, you know?
Indeed. You'll let me know if your condition changes.
Of course.
How's your work here coming along?
Quite well, actually. For being 400 years into the future, this technology's pretty similar to what we're used to. I suppose an apocalypse slows things down a bit.
Understandable.
Still, fabricators are quite handy. Juno's been printing me parts as I need them. Pretty cool, huh?
Agreed. I too believe the fabricators are quite cool. The speed with which they're able to reprint my shell is most impressive.
Indeed, I believe you'll find their efficiency